Well, all right, let's get into some of these headlines. Good morning. Well, Trump's cabinet, the tech oligarchs and those closest to him are all over the Epstein files, suggesting that they likely protected Trump by removing his name from the files. Remember this guy, Lutnick? Let's take a look at this. Unbelievable.
Resign.
Representative Thomas Massie is calling for Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to resign over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. The Kentucky Republican told a media outlet he thinks Lutnick should just step down instead of testifying before Congress. This comes after new Epstein files revealed business dealings between Lutnick and the convicted sex offender years after Epstein's 2008 conviction. Documents show they signed a deal in December of 2012 to buy stakes in an ad tech company that later shut down. Emails also suggest Lutnick planned drinks with Epstein in 2011 and a family lunch on his private island that same month. Lutnick had claimed he cut ties in 2005, but clearly kept in touch. The Commerce Department downplayed it, saying Lutnick had limited interactions with his wife present, and he's never been accused of wrongdoing. Massey compared it to Britain, where politicians like Peter Mandelson and aide Morgan McSweeney resigned last week over lesser Epstein links. Prince Andrew even lost his royal titles last fall for his alleged role. Massey said if this were Great Britain, Lutnick would already be gone, and he should make things easier on the president by quitting. Meanwhile, Congress gets access to unredacted Epstein files starting Monday after Massey and Democrat Ro Khanna push for it.
So, if you don't remember, Lutnick was the guy who laughed in our faces. We're going to call him Laughing Lutnick. Before they made it a law to release the files, he stood up there with Donald Trump as Trump called it a Democrat hoax. And Laughing Lutnick started laughing away. Why? Because he probably knew he was going to get away with it. Now, the key word here is after Epstein was convicted. At that point, everybody should have abandoned him. So the dead giveaway is that people continued to work with him. What that means is that we have ourselves a conspiracy. Why would prominent people risk their entire careers to continue to work with someone who is a known PDF file unless they're all PDF files? I hope this is getting through to some people, because some people are still defending Trump and all this. And the bottom line is we now have several of the tech oligarchs. We have Facebook. We've got Jeff Bezos. We've got Elon Musk even all having meetings with Epstein after he was a convicted PDF file. We also have Bill Gates and all kinds of people. It goes on both sides of the aisle. And as you know, these people flip-flop when it's convenient for them. Zuckerberg was once a Democrat, wasn't he? Didn't he vote for Democrats? And all of a sudden he's in the White House with Trump. These people flip-flop back and forth. So it has nothing to do with what side you think I fall on. Okay? It's both sides. That's the whole point of all this. And if we can't even come together on exposing true evil on both sides of the aisle, then I don't know what else there is left to do, you guys. So, Laughing Lutnick busted in the FBI files as they stood up in front of the world and bold-faced lied to us, telling us the Epstein files were a Democrat hoax. And I will tell you, these people are very good liars, because if you weren't paying close enough attention, you would have believed them, right? So Massey wants Lutnick to resign, and absolutely should. He should actually, well, they can't prove he faced, that there was anything criminal going on. I mean, we can fill in the blanks, but in terms of the law, you'd have to have more evidence. But the fact that he basically, what do they call that when someone is, in legal terms, when they're too close to a case, they have to step down. Somebody help me with the terminology on that. And this is the same thing. How can we give responsibility over to the very people that are in the files to show us the files? They're compromised. So now the truth is finally starting to materialize, because you can only redact and omit so much information before the part that's missing becomes glaringly obvious. That's what we're dealing with now. We obviously know that there's no possible way that Trump never, ever, ever sent Epstein an email, never received any correspondence from Mar-a-Lago. He was a member at Mar-a-Lago. Of course, Mar-a-Lago sent out emails and things to all of their members about upcoming events, right? I mean, we got to use our brains here, you guys. There must have been one email between Trump's people and Epstein's people, and there are none in the file, suggesting that what's missing was scrubbed. Some people are like, well, Trump doesn't use email and Trump doesn't. He has secretaries do all that. You're telling me that there was nobody on Trump's side that sent Epstein an email. They were best friends for several of those years. I won't say they were best friends for all those years, but they were best friends for many of those years. There are hundreds of pictures of them together, hundreds. Melania, there's even in the Epstein files, Melania sent Ghislaine Maxwell this like bestie email. Hey girl, da-da-da-da. So they were very close. Of course, there were more messages between Ghislaine Maxwell and Melania and all these things. We would have to be a fool to think that there were zero messages, which is what the Epstein files tell us if we want to believe them. So the breadcrumbs are the giveaway. Now, here's another bombshell. Trump claimed that he kicked Epstein out, of course, of Mar-a-Lago in 2004. But the files tell a different story. So once again, they're caught lying. It's the lying that gives them away. Why would you lie about something like this? Congressman says redacted part of Epstein file suggests Trump never banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago. Democrat Republican Jamie Raskin spoke with reporters after reviewing a handful of unredacted Epstein files on Monday, February 9th, sharing one detail that stood out to him. Previously unseen section of the Epstein files may refute one of Trump's defenses about his friendship with the convicted sex offender. Wow, let's take a look here. Now, he spoke with the reporters. Department of Justice has released countless documents to the public in large batches. We already know that. Raskin said he has only had the opportunity to review 30 or 40 of the documents so far. Preparation for Bomdi's testify. She's going to testify, I guess. That's tomorrow. However, one of the documents he did see had an interesting exchange that could call some of the president's previous statements into question. The document in question was an email forward from Epstein to his associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, from 2009, which was just after the late billionaire's 2008 conviction on charges of procuring a child for blah, blah, blah. The email exchange apparently recounted a conversation between lawyers for Epstein and Trump. Epstein's lawyer synopsized. It quoted Trump as saying that Jeffrey was not a member of his club at Mar-a-Lago, but he was a guest at Mar-a-Lago, and he had never been asked to leave, Raskin said. Wow, that was redacted for some intermediate, inscrutable reason. I know it seems to be at odds with what some people think about President Trump has been saying recently about how he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club or asked him to leave, and this is at least one report that appears to contradict it. So this is one report saying the exact opposite of what Trump claims. So the point is, I have no reason to lie to you. Okay, you and I are on the same level. We're middle-class people, middle lower class people, middle upper class people who gain nothing by lying about something like this, right? The people who have everything to gain by lying are the people in power. You and I have much more in common than you do with them. That's the whole point of this. But they want you to think that you have more in common with them. That's the magic. That's the sorcery. And this is how they get away with their lies. People think, why would Trump lie about something like this? Well, it's obvious why he would lie about something like this, right? We are here to get down to the bottom of the truth, okay? I have nothing to gain by telling you something that I don't believe is true, okay? Because when you lie about something like this, it's going to come back to bite you. Now, we've been consistent in our investigations into Trump and his connections to Epstein for at least 8 years now on this channel. We've uncovered things, and now the truth is starting to materialize. Now, before, you might have thought, oh, you're just barking up the wrong tree. Nope, I told you it was likely Trump that was in charge of all this. That's the big secret that everyone's covering up. Epstein was his inferior. Now, here's another thing. It's beyond me why this video has not gone mainstream yet. Epstein literally visited Trump Tower right after Trump won the election in 2016. For some reason, nobody wants to touch this with a 10-foot pole. I triple promoted this video on 2 or 3 different shows since it aired on February 6th. And yet it's still sitting at about half the views of all of the other Epstein videos. Now, it's not because I need views because, I want my YouTube channel to be successful. This is important information to crack the case wide open. And to prove my point, this video has 99.3% thumbs up and almost half of 1% thumbs down. So obviously this message resonated, but because we live in corrupt, upside down clown world, YouTube hides these kinds of videos. And this should give every American pause. The fact that information is not allowed to spread organically. Now, let's get into some of the fallout of the Epstein files to show you that not all this is falling on deaf ears. People are getting fired. They're getting deposed. I think they should face criminal charges and more investigations, but at the least they're getting fired. So that's a good thing. What really needs to happen is this whole thing needs to be opened back up and investigated to see the corruption, to see the key people who tried to hide evidence or who did not believe victims or who did not follow up with victims. That's what should be happening right now. And even the billionaires that settled out of court with victims. If there's a crime committed, the non-disclosure agreement is null and void. So that's what should happen. But I'll take people getting fired and deposed. That's at least a start. And I tell you, if the Epstein files were fake, all these people wouldn't have been fired. You got to use your common sense when considering if things are fake or not. We are making a difference, you guys. Now, let's look and see who's been fired so far. Now, this is dated February 5th. This is a little bit old because more people have been fired from this. Massive final drop of the Epstein files triggered another wave of uproar over freshly illuminated ties between the sex offender and some of the world's most influential people. And then, of course, they call it Bill Gates, Elon Musk. So, who's been fired? Brad Karp, chairman of Paul Weiss, one of the top corporate law firms in the U.S., resigned on Wednesday after emails between him and Epstein were revealed in the Justice Department latest release. One message, Karp asked Epstein for help securing a job for his son on a Woody Allen film. Karp also attended 2 group dinners in New York and had a small number of social interactions by email, all of which he regrets. Yeah, of course they're going to say that now because they know there's no criminal evidence yet. Now, the cover-up could be that all of the criminal stuff was removed from the files. And they said, okay, here's the compromise. We'll let everyone see your associations. We'll fire a few people. They might even be using our tax dollars to pay these people to go away, is what could be happening. Okay. I don't know that, but that's what could be happening. And they're like, okay, we're going to pay you. We're going to give you, $1 billion or $50 million. Each of you guys go away. It'll look like we did something. And we'll just hide all the pictures of you with little kids and stuff. That's probably what's going on. Here's another one. Peter Attia. I don't know who this guy is. He resigned as chief science officer of David Protein. He appears 1,700 times in the files. He exchanged lewd remarks with Epstein in one email telling the financier, the life you lead is so outrageous, and yet I can't tell a soul. Wow. So, everybody knows. Here's another one. David A. Ross. Now, these guys are a bunch of nobodies. There's also public figures in Europe that have been deposed as well, of course. But here's the problem. Even with all this evidence, the FBI concluded Jeffrey Epstein wasn't running a sex trafficking ring for powerful men. Really? Wow. Let's see what these people have to say here.
Site Chairman Comer is open to public hearings, but only after the private deposition. That's going to set a precedent, really, in many ways. I
don't even know what that lady's talking about. Now, let's get into some other news here. Elon Musk warns America will be 1,000% bankrupt fail as a country due to crazy debt. Protect your finances. Now, why anybody still listens to Elon Musk, I have no idea. Guy's been in the Epstein files after Epstein was convicted as an offender. So why do people even care about what Elon Musk says anymore? Well, it's because we as Americans, now when I say we, I'm not talking about the people on this channel. I say we as a basically describing the majority of American sentiment. Okay, that's when I say we, that's what I'm talking about. Some people get triggered when I say we. I'm not talking about the people on this channel. I'm saying we, like the new people that come to this channel, to help them open their eyes, to understand why nothing gets solved. Because our sentiment is misplaced. We respect money in America. So people get starry-eyed and googly-eyed when they see someone who would, a multi-billionaire, and everybody wants to be a multi-billionaire, right? Because of the way our financial system is set up. So here's the problem with Elon Musk. He was literally been telling us for the past 10 years that we're all going to be replaced with robots, and the end of the world is going to be because of the technocracy and artificial intelligence. He's literally telling us he's going to destroy us. Literally, if you really listen to what he's saying. And here he is with his most recent comments, and I believe he's saying this to take, again, attention off of him and the Epstein files, because he was also caught lying about the nature of his association with Epstein. He literally tried to say he met him one time and that Epstein was begging him to hang out. Well, exactly the opposite is true. Elon Musk was begging to hang out with Epstein, and he said, I want to go to your wildest party. So, wow, right? But we live in backwards world where people just, they see someone with money and they're like, ooh, I'm impressed. I want to be like him. So this is the world we live in, you guys. Now, as you heard a little bit earlier in the show, Congress is going to be able to view the unredacted Epstein files next week. And what that means, I don't know. Let's listen to this joker.
The Epstein files starting Monday. That according to two sources familiar with the plans. And it comes after calls from some lawmakers and survivors for more transparency and accountability in the investigations related to Epstein. At the same time, tensions are hitting a new high between President Clinton and Republican lawmakers over whether he will testify on Epstein in public. The former president writing on X late today in part, quote, I will not sit idly as they use me as a prop in a closed-door kangaroo court by a Republican Party running scared. If they want answers, let's stop the games and do this the right way.
So that's obviously a threat by Bill Clinton. He's like, I'll spill all the beans if you guys press me too hard. So nothing's going to get, so we're not going to get the details, right? We're probably not going to get the details. Now, there is a rumor afoot, and I can't confirm this yet, but I've seen some posts, as many of you probably have. Let's check in with you guys, make sure we're still here. Good. There's a rumor afoot that Massey has some kind of a flash drive. Did you guys hear this rumor? And it has the complete unredacted files, and it has so much information on it that it would literally end the American government tomorrow if he posted those. Did you guys hear that? I just saw some Facebook posts of that Massey has a flash drive with all of the files, the complete truth. He says everybody's in the files, literally everybody at the top, and that it was a comprehensive blackmail ring. Like our entire government is based off of blackmail. This means that every election was corrupt. It confirms everything about the right-left paradigm, that people were voted in simply to continue to divide the American public. They would keep handing the football back and forth from Republican to Democrat, and it was all just a game. That's what Massey is claiming, or allegedly. Again, I looked this up on the mainstream news. There is nothing about it. There's just a Facebook post going around. So we shall see, right? We shall see. Now, I decided to dig into the Epstein files a little bit. I got a couple pages pulled up because I thought maybe I should look up Robert Maxwell, which of course is Ghislaine Maxwell's father. So I did. And it appears as though Epstein had a fascination with her father, Robert Maxwell. Here's a few emails that I found to blank from Epstein. On eBay, there is a photo of Robert Maxwell, editor in a New York magazine called Mad Max. Buy it, please. So, who is he telling to do this? Was he telling Ghislaine Maxwell to do this? Why would her name be redacted? This was back in 2010. Here's another email. This is to Story Cowles. I don't know who Story Cowles is. From Epstein. He says, I want to watch an A&E special tomorrow on Robert Maxwell. Please set up. Who is Story Cowles? So, maybe Epstein wanted to take some notes. Maybe he wanted to be Robert Maxwell. Who knows? But I thought I would look that up and see what's going on. Now, in other news, Trump is reversing a lot of things that other presidents did under the guise of climate protection and all this. Much of this I agree with, but there are certain things we shouldn't reverse. Like, would we want, fluoride put back in the water? Or would we want some pesticides that have been proven to cause birth defects? Would we want that put back on our food? Of course not. But yet, Trump reapproved a twice banned pesticide. Now, this is information, actionable intelligence to help you avoid whatever foods this is being put on, right? Because obviously, we don't want to perish because of lack of knowledge. Let's read this. It says, U.S. President Trump on Friday reapproved the use of pesticide dicamba for spraying on top of genetically modified cotton and soybean crops, drawing swift backlash from environmental groups. So avoid soybeans that are American grown because they're putting dicamba on them. The move comes despite federal courts in 2020 and 2024 striking down the Environmental Protection Agency's previous approvals of the contentious weed killer. Wow, this decision responds directly to the strong advocacy of America's cotton and soybean farmers, particularly growers across the Cotton Belt, who have been clear and consistent about the critical challenges they face without access to this tool for controlling resistant weeds in their growing crop, the EPA said in a statement. Now, here's a problem with agriculture in America. Because we live in America, a capitalist society, it's expected that you, who are part of the economy, continue to create more and more every year, for you to become more and more efficient based on new technologies. And there's this constant pressure to be better and better and better. And it's about the furthest thing away from what God expects from us in terms of production and doing things on this earth, right? And I'm not saying that you should rest on your laurels. What I'm saying is our capitalist society inherently causes you to compete with your brother and sister, right? So people's attitude is, hey, I didn't get that for free, so why am I going to give that to you for free? Does that sound like loving your neighbor as yourself? Absolutely not. So our capitalist system is diametrically opposed to the things that God wants for us and his standards in our lives. And this is one such example. Yes, weeds grow inside of crops. This has been since the beginning of time. How did other people deal with it for the last 972 years? How did they deal with it? Well, there were other ways to deal with it. And if the weeds took over some of the crops, that's just part of the natural cycle of life. But instead, these farmers want a perfectly weedless field. And at whatever cost, even if it might be poisoning the crop. So here's what we're dealing with right here. So now we have dicamba. Now I remember this dicamba. There's something about it that I think we had covered this before, hadn't we? At some point over the years. Gosh, there's been so many decodes. Now the trade name is called Striax. Oh, what could go wrong there? Striax herbicide. Wow. Unbelievable. So those are some of the headlines I had for you guys. I missed one of the Super Bowl ads yesterday. It was about, or day before yesterday, it was about, someone said it was about headaches and headless people. Do you guys remember the name of that ad? I can probably look it up right now before we pop off of here. I'm back in the chat, you guys. Yeah, we live in a capitalist society. Everything has to be bigger and better the next year. That's unsustainable. I mean, how good can you get? Right? And this is causing undue stress on everybody, whether you believe it or not. It is causing undue stress in your life to continue to be expected to do more. Okay. Dikamba. Stridex for Zits, says Malin. Was that the commercial? The headless commercial? The headache commercial? I probably missed quite a few of the commercials because I stopped watching it after the halftime show. Trump RX website. Yes, I covered the Trump RX website last week before he announced that it was live. Okay. Dikamba kills trees wherever it's used. Anything on Nexium? N-I-N-X-I-U-M. Let's look it up. Nexium. No, nothing. No results found. Not to say there isn't, but you know. Trump Little Bits website, internet. Yeah, we covered that last week. Oh yeah, did you see the Bud Light? There was actually a Bud Light commercial, and I just laughed. They tried to say that it was like it'll never go away, and it's like it represents America. Like they just want us to all forget about what Bud Light did, right? NXIVM. Let's try that. Oh, all kinds. Let's go through some of these. Oh, there's 24. We can go through these. This is to blank from blank. Nexium documents 2021. An inmate letter about Nexium. I can confirm there are no references to any Nexium victims or defendants in the letter. However, the letter does reference Klein, Maxwell, and Jeffrey Epstein. Whoa! Holy smokes! So, the document about Nexium cult included Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Let's see some of these other emails here. Wait a minute. What? Oh, here we go. That's the same letter. Same letter. Wait. Did I see that right? Okay, let's see here. What's this one say? Whoa, redactions everywhere. Unbelievable. This was from 2019. New York Post. Regarding Nexium discovery. Huh. It's kind of hard to make sense of some of these files. It takes some research and time to do it. These are just mostly announcements. I'm looking for the emails. Oh, here we go. What's this say? Criminal vet. Okay. The heck? The FBI. Criminal threat bandings. Some kind of report from the FBI. Epstein, Nexium, and One Taste. What's that about? Areas of opportunity, program strength. New York continues to work the highest profile HT human trafficking cases in the FBI, i.e. Epstein, Nexium, and One Taste. I hadn't heard of One Taste yet. What year did this report come out? Let's see here. What's the date on this? Unclassified. Need a date. We need a date. Maybe it's at the end. Whoa, look at all these redacted pages. Holy smokes. See the problem here? Whoa. So the FBI has redacted half of this document. We don't know the date of this document. Wow, look at all those redacted pages. Insane. I don't see a date on here. Let's go to the top. Don't see any date there. Nothing on Trump. Okay. One more page. That's it, you guys. Wow. Okay, I'm back in the chat. The entire halftime show was in foreign language besides Lady Gaga. They're shoving in our faces. Yes. Okay, so let's break down what happened, because there's still some people really upset about the halftime shows. There were two. Interesting, right? Gemini halftime shows under the Gemini president. There's the duality again. Trump is the master divider, the master magician. And, of course, Trump had something to do with Kid Rock performing what Toilet Paper USA is now claiming is the most viewed video ever, right? Which is, of course, is hogwash. Don't get emotionally invested in which halftime show was better, okay? It's all by design. Kid Rock's in on it. Bad Bunny's in on it. They create as much controversy as they can to then once again divide everybody. Don't fall for it. Just understand that it's by design, right? So if you find yourself criticizing, one side and choosing the other, then you've already taken the bait. Now, if you criticize both and you go, okay, yeah, Kid Rock used to sing about underage girls. He continues to do so at his recent concerts. It's not like he's repented from all that. He's singing the same songs. But then he's posing as a Christian, saying we should all be saved. That's blasphemy, right? And then on the other side, they give us a halftime show completely in Spanish. But understand, the people at the top are using this to manipulate your minds and get you emotional and divided. All right. So that's just a reminder, because I know it's really easy to choose one or the other. But when you choose one side or the other, you're choosing wrong. We live in the realm of duality. This is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We went through a portal when Eve partook of the fruit. The fruit is the magnetic field. We're trapped here in a dimension of reality of the garden. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, duality. The only way out is through the narrow gate. This is why Jesus had to come and die for our sins, because we're locked in this dualistic mind thinking. Why do you think our brains are split? Why do you think the right side of the brain controls the left side of your body and vice versa? Why do you think we have a twin of everything in our body? You have 2 lungs, 2 kidneys, 2 sides of your brain, 2 sets of ribs, a right and left arm. It's because we're in a tree that is divided. Do you see now? I hope you do. The trees of the garden. The rest of the garden we're cut off from. The swinging swords of the angels, guarding the way to the rest of the garden. Those are the northern lights. The portal is probably somewhere up near the North Pole, but we can't get through. And nor do we want to unless we go through the narrow gate of Jesus Christ, believe in him, and we're saved, at some point we will have access to the garden again, the tree of life. Think about it. What is a tree? A tree is a galaxy. It's a spiral. Tree trunks are spirals. What you are looking at is an upturned tree. You're looking up through the bottom of the roots and through the trunk of the tree to another dimension of reality. There were many trees in the garden, many rooms in God's mansion. That's what heaven's going to be like. Not locked in duality. People are like, well, why do I want to live forever? There won't be anything to do. Do you think God is that lame that he can't come up with stuff for us to do? Of course he can. The devil wants you to believe that there won't be anything to do. There will be infinite trees of the garden to go to. One frame of reality could be that you can fly like Superman. Why do you think the devil recreates versions of our reality through fiction? Why do you think the devil came up with Superman and Batman and Avatar? Because that's actually what we're going to get to do when we go to heaven. But the devil copies everything, doesn't he? So he's going to get depicted in his way, hijack the idea. No, we can't get to the galaxies where the angel swords block the way. We can see them. We can see the trees of the garden, the galaxies, through a telescope, but we can't get to them until we go through the narrow gate. And this is where we get into warp speed. This is why I know who Trump is and what he's about. Coming up with these terms, mocking the Bible, warp speed. Instead of going through the narrow gate, Jesus Christ, they want to use the warp drive to get to other galaxies, right? The whole Star Trek phenomenon was mockery of what the Garden of Eden used to be like. Partaking of the fruit is going through the portals. Partaking of the fruit is going through the portals to other galaxies, to other frames of reality. I truly believe that once this is all said and done, this is the truth. And I don't know any of this. It's just been impressed upon me. When you think about things in the normal course of free thought and you contemplate these things, it seems to be the answer. So this should all be encouraging to you, because heaven won't be boring. And God's amazing, and he made a garden with endless things to do and not having to worry about, wow, did I sin today? Did I mess up? No, because our bike in the Garden of Eden only had one speed. We didn't have a 10-speed bike with all these choices to do wrong or right. And God's going to limit those choices again. When we go to heaven, there will be no more sin in God's new kingdom. There will be no more sin. You won't even have the ability to sin. Imagine how great that is going to be. Complete fulfillment without sin. Wow. So, okay. Sorry about that. I went on a little Bible rant there. Yes, Jesus is the only way. Yeah, Star Trek was basically the Garden of Eden. They're like, Scotty, take me to the planet such and such. We're going to the nebulous galaxy or whatever. They just went through it. They went into another tree. And then there was a whole story and a whole new frame of reality, right? With all kinds of weird aliens and creatures and abilities and all that kind of stuff. Do a poll, see how many have had flying dreams. Yeah, I've had those before, and oh my gosh, those were the most realistic dreams I've ever had. Like, I literally, when I was starting to wake up, I would try to put myself back in the dream because it felt so real. And the ones that I had, I was able to like leap over fences, like I was weightless almost. So, the Genesis plan on Star Trek, yes, Mike Guyver. All right, guys, I'm going to pop off of here. I've got some things to do. We'll be back tomorrow, likely. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Much love.